What's up guys, this is Gerard talking, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'll be making a full review for the Romancing Festival Gerard banner that brings Gerard that is a buffer for attack and defense boost, Wagnas that is an overdrive specialist, Noel buffer for STR and damage, and Subier that is an overdrive specialist. Well, we are going to talk about Gerard first. Well, its name to the banner may be the most interesting style. It depends on your needs. We have 108% STR. As you can see, damage is not the focus. But we have 88% endurance and 98% will. That's very important because Gerard cannot get inflicted with ailments. Agility is 95%, but it's a non-issue because his effects are triggered passively on start of turns. Moving on, we have on start of battle this supportive poster. That's what Gerard exists for. This is a very interesting effect where if all allies are still surviving, meaning that it's just like ScherBR, no one can die, you get this 30% attack boost and a 25% damage reduction, or 20 if we are talking about JP. I don't know which value they are using here. Both effects can last for 2 turns and will be sent to random surviving allies. Okay, so you have no control over who gets this. And in the start of the fight, you only have one effect. You can get plenty of other effects, 5 to be precise, for a total of 6, by use of the skill number 2 called Flying Light Slash. It's a single target attack with Slash and Sun that will also trigger additional effects. When you are attacking with Slash attacks, you'll be buffing 5% of all status. Just 5, yeah. I hope it was just 15, but it's just 5. And when you are attacking with Sun attacks, you'll be recovering HP by very small effect. That will be around 250. So Gerard start the fight with one of this, and then he wants to use the skill number 2 5 times in a row, so that on turn 6, you have 6 trigger of this. And it's important to discuss this right now because you will need to understand that Gerard is a slow burner character. He will help on very long fights. If you have like 6 triggers of the supportive poster and you take the average value, you will have around 2 of each of these effects on each character. So sometimes one can get like all 6 attack boosts for itself. Very low chance of it happening, but I think if you consider at least that it lasts for 2 turns, you have the most important part, the defense boost on each one of your characters. Well, I don't know. It's not reliable. It is nice when it lands on the characters that need, but, well, if you don't get the right values, you can get into danger. But of course, he has more. He increases the damage for all allies by 15%, including himself, and then he reduces damage taken by 25% at all times. He does not need anyone to be alive, so that's much better than ScherBR. And he still gives more defense up for all surviving allies, 5% damage reduction 5 times per battle. So 5 stacks of minus 5%. He also gets 2 extra BPs on start of turn, so a total of 5 per turn. Gets a damage block on the start of a turn, and he himself gets another 5 stacks of defense up, but this time 15% for the whole fight. So he becomes extremely defensive, won't easily die, and wants to stay in the center of some formations like Rising Phoenix and Rising King. But he's not a counter specialist. He cannot taunt with passives, but he can by inheritance of Steelblade Light. And that can be pretty interesting, but again, you will be using this guy for the first 5 turns with Flying Light Slash, just to get the 5 stacks of the supportive poster, unless you are using him in a different way than he was designed. So, besides, he has a skill number 1 called Gleaming Valiant Slash that attacks 2 times. First with Gleaming Slash, and that buffs STR before attacking by 25%. Then attack, and then he uses Valiant Slash that recovers his own HP by around 250. The good thing about this is that it will trigger his passives twice, so you'll be buffing all status for everyone by 10% and healing them twice for around 500, but to himself it will be even higher because the second attack will recover his HP once more. So, even being very tanky, he can self-heal well. but you may not actually want to use this skill. Let's talk about the third one first. Starry Sword is a single target attack with slash and sun damage. Again, will trigger all of his effects. And then it will buff all surviving allies status by 25% on max level. And then gives all surviving allies attack boost that increases damage potential by 15% on max rank. Lasts for 3 turns. It will stack with all other sources of attack boost. But it costs 9 BP and it has very low power, just S. But this is kind of similar to Acelus. Also has a skill that can buff the party. In her case, it costs 11. But she also gives this passive Phantom that has 25% chance to evade. And also 1 BP, so she gets that back. In her case, it's like costing 10 BP for extra effect. And I believe it's better than the version that we have here with Gerard. But I don't know if we'll be using this, to be honest. Since buffs with status are not really what Gerard wants to do. Why? Because, like I said, the first 5 turns you'll be using the Flying Light Slash. And then you want to use, if you have the inheritance of Steelblade Light from this specific version of Gerard. Why? I know, it will take some time to reach that point. It is only by turn 7 where you have enough BP, unless you have someone in your party giving BP to Gerard, and then he can probably use this by turn 6. And this taunts, and he likes to taunt because he would then get more attack, and he barely takes damage. You recover all surviving allies HP by around 1.2 thousand. With triple S power, that's much stronger than just S power. Gerard by itself will not do much damage. You have to remember that he only has this 15% damage increase from Emperor Unison passive, and all the status buffs that he can keep, but in many boss fights, they are also breaking your buffs, unless it comes from other people, and he stacks some attack boosts via supportive poster. Still, it's better to heal the party, if possible. If you are running him together with Matriarch, well, Matriarch can heal as well, and she can buff as well. And when you attack, you get buffs passively. So Matriarch combos well with Gerard, since she also has 1 defensive boost on start of turn, and she can cover for the first turns where you don't have Steelblade Light available, because you want to use skill number 2. And then you can eventually reduce the stress of Matriarch being a healer in the party. Both are also Sun Elemental, so they can be used when the enemies are weak to Sun, although Matriarch barely does any type of damage anyway. But if you don't have that Steelblade Light, it's not really a problem, because you can still heal at least around 500 by using the first skill, Gleaming Valiant Slash, because it heals twice and it will buffing all status by 10%. It still works because, look, using Gleaming Valiant Slash twice, because, well, Subier Light uses 10 BP, he gets 5 per turn, he can usually use this every 2 turns. Using it one after another will give you 4 very small healing. A small healing is usually the combination of 4 very small heals. So, the good thing about Subier Light is that it gives you taunt, and Gerard likes taunt, unless you are using Gerard with someone else's. For example, he can be used with Sirius, the nearest counter tank, that actually has a lot of other utility as well. Sirius is another sword user with the Holy Element, and taunts and counters. Or if you are using Gerard together with Julian. Julian, one of the best counter tanks in the game, has a very good taunt. You don't want to use Silly Light when using Julian, or even the other very strong counter, that is Human Male. So, all of these units have taunt themselves, and in those cases, you just want Gerard to heal its skill number 1. Well, all in all, Gerard's trying to replace someone in your party like Liz or Anya. I can say that Gerard can replace Liz, but to just an extent. Well, Liz has 4 defense boosts stacked, unless she has problems with BP generation. That equals a lot of damage reduction. This guy will have 25, then 5 stacks of 5, and then usually at least 1 another stack of defense boost. It may not be as high as Liz or as reliable, but Gerard is attacking. Liz is not. But Liz is giving BP. he heals more. But if you're using Mantrek, you may not need the extra heals from this. See where I'm getting? It's not that Gerard replaces someone in your party. He opens new compositions in the party by having access to lots of defense boosts, but also attack boosts, something that Liz doesn't help with. She's purely defensive. Mantrek is offensive. Some of the recent challenges are asking us to do more damage faster because bosses have defense ups, they have heat ups, and you don't want the fight to keep going for too long. And if you have other damage dealers that take too much time to build, for example, Hippolyta. Well, Hippolyta takes a lot of time to build, but when she attacks, she deals insane amounts of damage. That's the same case with also the latest Subier that we'll be talking about in this video. He takes some turns to build, and when he attacks, he does a lot. So, on those case scenarios, they will actually work super well with Gerard because they have better chances of having attack boosts when their time to attack is near. Well, I would not say that Gerard is a must-have. I even believe that Sirius has better value. If you can buff, Sirius will give you so much that it's hard to replace, especially because Sirius has debuff cleans and also a buff break to all enemies, something that is not found in any other character. And Sirius can also heal the party, although they don't exactly clash. Sometimes we may not have space for both. So I can say that if you summon it for Sirius and you don't have enough chance, you can just stay quiet. Well, overall, Gerard's a very good style, but he relies a little bit too much on RNG. So you can also replace either Anya or Liz in many builds, but he can clash with some other strong characters. I don't think he replaces Sirius. They do different stuff, and I will give him a 4.5 out of 5 grade. The same one I gave to Sirius, but it's more that they serve different purposes. If you can buff, Sirius better. If you cannot buff, then Gerard may be better. Gerard has a different style on JP that was released alongside Leon's better, and this Leon is very powerful. It's probably 2 to 3 months away in global, and he's more of a support with access to heal. He can give this free skill to the current Gerard. It's Slash and Sun, and he recovers HP by 1.2 thousand, so it allows him to be even tankier. Single target recovery skill that can revive 5 times per battle, and an AoE one that can revive and heal 3 times per battle. And he has extra effects when recovering after turn 5 and then after turn 8. I don't really like this style. I think it's very inferior to the current one, but you can use the inheritance. The next one will be Wagnas, and he's a hybrid character who actually uses spell but can inherit STR based skills. That's why his STR is just 100%. And intelligence is 112. Endurance is on 86 and will is on 96, so very similar to Gerard. He also has bad agility. Moving on the start of battle, he grants himself this Onslaught strategy. That's a passive that can be used on overdrive attacks. It will grant all other surviving allies an attack boost that increases damage by 30%, lasts for 2 turns, can stack. Then he will give 15 points of overdrive gauge to all other surviving allies, but not himself because he's on overdrive. So that has an interesting design, but on the same time, it's hard to make use because you want Wagner to trigger overdrive by himself to give the overdrive points to everyone else. And if he's doing that, well, at least he's buffing before they get into overdrive on the next turn, and they can take benefit of the 2-turn effect of the attack boost. When he's also attacking on overdrive, he will recover all allies HP by around 1.2 thousand. Then he will recover all other surviving allies BP by 3, not including himself. Then he will grant all surviving allies, this time including himself, over enhance. That will increase overdrive damage by 50%, max of 3 times per battle. So it can reach as much as 150% damage increase on overdrive attacks only. But since he does have the attack boost for 30%, and this attack boost works in any other scenario, it's nice. But he still needs to be on overdrive, and he does not start with the gauge fillet. Then by the end of a turn, he gets 2 BP, and he will fill his own overdrive gauge by 15 points. When all allies are still surviving, he reduces damage taken by 20%. That's Scrumguard with the extra effect that if he dies, he will recover the HP of all other surviving allies by around 1.5 thousand. He has an extra defense, decreasing damage taken by 30% at all times, and will recover a little bit HP by around 250 by the end of his turn. Okay, so he lacked the full overdrive gauge on start, and a way to give people overdrive besides being on overdrive. Skill number 1, Flame Trio, is a single target spell hit attack that has C power and buffs all surviving allies, including himself, intelligence by 25%. This is an extremely interesting skill for free, all that much. The second one is called the Kaleidoscope of Butterflies. It's a single target hit attack with S power and 7 VP cost that can only be used 3 times per battle and grants the user this Onslaught strategy. What is Onslaught strategy? It's the same passive he gets on start of battle. Remember? He will then give this attack boost of 30% damage increase for 2 turns that can stack, and 15 points of overdrive gauge to everyone else, excluding himself only when attacking on overdrive. So eventually, when you use this skill 3 times, you have 4 stacks of Onslaught strategy, and on overdrive, you'll be giving 4 stacks of 30% damage increase for 2 turns, and giving 60 points of OD to everyone else's. Now, that's pretty awesome. So here we start having some problems with Wagnas' design. He cannot use Kaleidoscope of Butterfly 3 times in a row because he only has 20 BP by turn 3. But just 1 extra BP will be enough. Maybe if you're running Liz, or if you're running Sheree, it will be even better. So if you use Onslaught strategy on turn 3, you will probably be already on overdrive for turn 4. And you want to use Wagnas on overdrive as soon as possible to apply all the effects, like the full 120% attack boost by stacking 4 Onslaught strategy, and also the 60 points of overdrive. But you can actually ignore the OD generation. You will be recovering HP as well. You'll be giving people 3 points of overdrive, even extending their overdrive damage by 50%. That can happen 3 times. So if you have good generation, let's say on turn 4, you will want to use Butterfly Flame Dance. And why? This is a fast skill. Remember, a fast usually goes before the other characters unless they also have fast. So the problem is that his agility is pretty low, meaning that you want to place Wagnas in the front line of formations. Even if someone else has a fast attack in the back lines, they may still go after Wagnas. And if you use skill number 3, this also gives morale up very large by 2 turns. So now you have 40% extra damage, together with 120, that is 160, and 50% more when attacking on overdrive for 210% extra damage. That can be very impressive if you're using characters that have strong skills, multi-chase attacks, and all. Just has to have good BP generation to help him not skip turns. Because after the first cast of Butterfly Flame Dance on overdrive, you want to get Wagner into overdrive as fast as possible. And he will usually get into overdrive every 3 turns. So by turn 10, he will be sent all the 3 stacks of overhands to the party. That's nice and all, but maybe you cannot wait that long. But it will really depend on the characters that you have. Some other characters also take time to build if they are stronger by turn 5. Like I said, even Subier from the same banner, he is stronger after stacking all of his over-enhances. And he will then want to overdrive on turn 5 and beyond as well. So in those cases, like Hippolyta 2, you will not worry about waiting to do more damage. But in the cases of people like, for example, Leon, that has only 10 turns and he has to be fast with his damage, they may not combo super well. But all in all, Wagnas can increase the damage of your party, just has to be used on the right way. And my biggest problem with him is his own OD gauge generation. It should have been, I don't know, 40 points or 50 points to fasten the process of getting to overdrive and giving this very nice effects earlier. As for inheritance, there's nothing that really matters. He already has everything that he can take benefit, but you can find paralyzes in 3 different skills, Flame Whip plus Psycho Shot and Mad Bind to use on Rio Queen. You can find Butterfly Blaze to apply Confusion on Wuhan. You can also find extra hit ups, but he's more of a party player than self damage dealer. And Divine Lancer that will give him attack boost and buff the enemy dexterity. Since you have lots of intelligence, this will probably land. But again, he is more about buffing damage of the squad. He also works well when paired up with mages, since he can buff intelligence when he does not have enough VP to use Butterfly Flame Dance. But he will eventually just get into the cycle of Butterfly Flame Dance and Flame Trio. But you should not care too much about using just with mages, because overall Wagnas works with many different squads, but works much better if they have OD points already, or they can wait for their strongest attacks. With all that said, he's a little hard to use, and I would say Wagnas only deserves a 3.5 out of 5 in my grade system. Wagnas just got a recent style on JP where he is a counter specialist. He has to use his skills to counter, but he can choose between Pierce and Hint. He will also negate the elemental of his attack. And he even gets into double counter stance when he enters Overdrive. And since those attacks stack, he can counter 3 times easily. He was designed for the current Megalith Dragon boss. And in that fight, you get materials to upgrade the Remembrance weapons to Triple S Heritage. Wagnas doesn't really compete with Labelle directly, but she's easier to use. And if you are okay with her strategy, you can skip Wagnas and wait for other types of Overdrive specialists. The next character will be Noel. And Noel has 122% STR, 82% Endurance, and 95% Will. Pretty similar to the status of all the other units here, even with the same low agility as always. Does have some intelligence because it can debuff, but it may not be high enough. You need to bring buffers to Noel on high intelligence to buff. Moving on, this guy has this very interesting passive. When he is attacked, he will grant all other surviving allies an attack boost of 20% that lasts for 2 turns and can stack with other sources of attack boost. You also buff all other surviving allies STR by 15% and grant all other surviving allies this battle surge 1 time for 2 turns. Just the reversed method, when anyone else is being attacked, he will grant himself this attack boost of 20%, lasts for 2 turns, can stack, buff his own STR by 15%, and will also grant himself this battle surge. So he gets passives when... So he gets triggers when people are attacked, and when people are attacked, he gets triggers. So when people are attacked, he gets triggers, and when he is attacked, other people get triggers. Now, what exactly is Battle Surge? Battle Surge is a special passive that when you are on OD and you attack, you recover HP by a very small effect, usually around 250, max of 1 time. Okay, but this passive will last for 2 turns, meaning that if you get into Overdrive on the next turn, you can use it, but only in these situations, because you get hit right now, and by the end of a turn, you already lost 1 turn. So this will only account for the next turn when you are on Overdrive. All the other turns will be wasted. But if you are in a fight where the enemy uses AoE attacks and everyone triggers the effect, because on AoE, every 5 characters of your party will get all the effects, and the enemy attacks too much. Let's say the enemy attacks like at least 3 times with AoE. Then get into Overdrive in that particular turn. On the next, you will recover 3 times with very small. That would be at least 750 healing. So it's hard to rely on this because most of the time all of your stacks will be wasted. But it's not so hard to take advantage because the situation happened. It's very similar to the way that Wagnas works, where it doesn't work all the time, but when it works well. But you are still getting all of those attack boosts that will be stacking. You are getting all of those SDR buffs, and that's awesome. As we were talking about, Gerard can give attack boosts. SDR buff when being attacked. You have Julian. Julian gives SDR to everyone when he's attacked. Well, that includes himself. It's just about him. He taunts, he gets attacked, he buffs everyone. In the case of Noel, he sometimes will not be buffed because someone else got hit. And when he gets hit, he buffs everyone else. See? Depends on the enemy behavior. If there are too many SDR, if there are too many single target attacks, you will not see as much as you see when Julian is buffing. Now, by the end of a turn, he gets 2 extra BP and also 25 points of OG Gouge. That's better than Wagner's. Now, when landing any attack, Noel will change with Crimson Slash. Crimson Slash is a very nice skill. It has 8 power, slash, and heat damage, and when the attack lands, there is a chance to decrease the enemy's STR by 25%. There are 2 problems with Noel. Very low agility, so he will likely be the last of your characters to attack, even if you are using a formation that increases his agility. And his intelligence is not that high, meaning that he may still not debuff the enemy. This can be fixed by use of Matriarch and in fights where you can buff, because she will allow him to self-buff when he attacks, and additional hits will buff further. Okay, Noel will work in those scenarios. It still has another chase on Overdrive only called Salamander Claw. Salamander Claw has triple S power and it's also slash and heat damage. That's pretty nice because he can combo well with Firebringer. So when you are using with Firebringer, you get 1 extra BP for each heat attack you perform. And Firebringer is a debuffer as well. Depending on the situations, you can use them together for the same elemental type. Enemy will be weak to slash or heat. They work. And Firebringer debuffs STR too, but not by much. So having both together can work if they are both allowed to debuff the enemy. But even Firebringer can sometimes miss debuffs. And look, his intelligence is much higher at 100%. Now, he still has 30% damage increase at all times and reduces damage taken by 30% as well. Skill number 1 is Defensive Flame Slash. It's slash and heat as well, single target, costs 1 BP. It has just E power, so it's pretty much similar to a normal attack, but it casts a guard up small that decreases damage taken by 12%, will not stack with under guard ups, but heals his HP by very small. Oh, that doesn't matter much, but it's almost free. The second skill is called Sword Master Stance. This is a strange one, to say at least, because it will give him this Spirit to Fight passive for 2 turns. Spirit to Fight heals all Overdrive Gouge and recovers 5 VP. Okay, so you use 8 and you recover 5. You will get 5 per turn. So you won 2 extra, right? And you will be on Overdrive. Because on Overdrive, you'll be chasing with Salamander Claw. It makes sense, right? You'll be doing more damage. And on Overdrive, you attack before the enemy. That allows him to be a better debuffer, right? But there are still some problems on this design. Because he already gets a lot of Overdrive points. But to understand that, we need to discuss Hellfire Cross, the third skill. It's single target, slash, and heat. And after you attack with 8 power and 10 BP cost, you cast a morale up very large that buffs damage by 40% just in that turn, and then chases with Salamander Claw. But this Salamander Claw will reach level 99 when you max the skill, so it will do more damage. And when you consider that you just casted Morale up, even the Guaranteed Chase, Crimson Slash, will do more damage. Sadly, Hellfire Cross is not fast. If it was fast, it would be amazing. But how much OD points you get by use of Hellfire Cross? Well, you get 12 by the first hit, then another 12 by the second hit, and then you get 16 points by the Guaranteed Chase, and then 25 points by the end of a turn. So, how much you generated just by using skill 3? Well, 65 points of OD gauge. That means that you will get into overdrive pretty fast. If an enemy attacks multiple times, it will need like 5 hits to get Noel into overdrive in the same turn he used Hellfire Cross. So that is nice, I believe. So you have to choose between doing more damage and never skipping a turn, or using Swordsmaster stance and then using Noel as a better debuffer, because then he will be on overdrive and it doesn't matter if he is together with anyone else, but having the agility problem fixed, he will go before the enemy and will debuff. He would just not debuff when he is using Swordmaster stance. So, one turn you use the skill, 2 other turns you debuff, and then you use the skill again. So every 3 turns, 2 turns you debuff, 1 you don't. That can lead you to dying, because bosses usually removes all debuffs on every turn. Now, but it depends on boss design. So Noel is nice because of all of those attack boosts that you are getting. Those cannot be removed by the enemy. And if you are allowed to keep your STR buffs as well, you increase your damage even further. But some bosses can remove your buffs by the end of turn or every 2 turns or whatever. Noel still helps by giving you more damage and still allowing you to heal on overdrive. Sadly, you cannot control how much you'll be healing on overdrive, but Noel himself gets into overdrive too fast. And if you are using other characters that also gets to overdrive all the time, they will likely be healing as well by use of Battle Surge. So Noel kinda keeps a little bit of everything for remembrance. But for real hard challenges, if you want STR buff, you may still want to use Julian. But Noel can give you extra healing. Noel does not counter. Julian does. See, you may not actually want to use both, but you still can. Because you can place then on a fight where there are way too many attacks. So you'll be buffing STR by both and even giving an attack boost. So one benefits from the another. But then the only problem with Noel will be if you need him to be a debuffer. If you don't, you can actually decide to use Hellfire Cross, especially if you have VP generation. Well, as for inheritance, there is one that is interesting to say at least. From his Christmas style, there is a skill called Air Dance Slash that attacks first with Slash and Blunt, and then again with Cyclone Kick, and recovers HP by around 1.2 thousand. You will get as much as 89 points of OD gauge by using Air Dance Slash, chasing and get OD by the end of turn. So with just 3 attacks from the enemies, you will get into overdrive. You can decide this if you want him to get into overdrive faster, instead of using that skill, call it Swordmaster Stance. We also have Life Drain Sword to use instead of the first skill if you are running Liz, since she will give you 2 extra points off P. This one will heal, but also give an endurance and wheel buff. He can be used as a defensive counter, but I don't think it's reliable. His Bloom Dancing Blade is not that useful on this build because he only gets 5 EP and this one uses 14. But there is also Autumn Slash that is free and buffs STR by up to 30%. And it's free, so you don't need extra generation. And you can fix this cycle off using skill 3 and then skill 1. His first premium style has also Zanshin that enters an evasive counter stance, but counters with Cyclone Kick. That's pretty weak. And there is also Blunt Strike to use Noel on Real Queen, if you so want. Noel is nice because he buffs and he can give attack boosts and some extra effects. Noel is yet another character with access to multiple roles in a fight. May not be the best in all of them, but it's just maybe opening a slot in your party. But he also has some problems like low agility and low intelligence, and even a little bit of BP generation. Overall, because of Greatswords are in need of extra power for Remembrance, he's a good pick, but I will give him 4.0 out of 5 in my new grade system. Noel got a recent style on JP where he's back to being a slash and shadow damage dealer, has a free attack, then a 5 VP attack that buff breaks the enemy, and a 10 VP attack that applies two different effects that I cannot translate, while also fuse Overdrive Gauge of everyone, and has extra chases that applies both attack and defense boosts, while also still giving over enhancement to the party. He's a Overdrive specialist with damage control. The last character is Subier, and we have 125% STR, 91% endurance, and 91% will. Those valors are good, but nothing special. Agility is just okay as well, with nothing else standing out. When Subier uses an overdrive attack, he would then buff all surviving allies status by 20%. He would then cast a defense boost that decreases damage taken for one turn by either 20% or 25% if using global values. And then over enhance that gives a 50% damage increase to everyone when attacking on overdrive. Can trigger 3 times per battle, so the max is 150% increase. By the end of a turn, he gets 1 BP and then another for 5 total, and 25 points of Overdrive Gauge. Then, on start of turn, he grants himself another Over Enhance, but this one has 30% damage increase and triggered 5 times per battle, reaching 150% max potential by turn 5. He then gets 20% damage increase at all times, then 30 when using combo, another 30 when using Overdrive, and then has a 30% damage reduction at all times. So there are a lot of different buffs here, but the one that stays active at all time is just 20%. But okay, he's a character that takes preparation time to reach full potential and can actually help the party reach better damage on overdrive. So you have to choose to be your partner as well. Skill number 1 is called Prime Pump Plus. Its support fast and self gives ward up large to the user, decreasing damage taken by 35%, lasts for 2 turns, and also grants this cold attack boost. Buffs cold damage by 45% on rank 1 or 55% on max rank, and 2 extra BP. Well, those valors are actually pretty nice for a free skill. The second one, Tidal Spear, is his main selling point. A 7 BP cost, a power attack that has pierce and cold damage, and will grant the user SaGa Lord Onslaught 1 time, 5 turns. What exactly is SaGa Lord Onslaught? When you attack on overdrive, you're going to chase with all-in SaGa Lord Spear. 1 time only. And it will use rank 1. But what exactly is all-in Lord Spear? It's his skill number 3 that would cost 10 BP to cast without overdrive, and before attacking, it grants the user this pierce and cold attack boost that increases 40% damage for pierce, 40% damage for cold, lasts for just that turn, but if a skill has both pierce and cold, it will stack. Since he buffs before you attack, you get an extra 80% damage increase when using it as a chase on overdrive, or 90% damage increase when using it as a command. But you don't want to use this as a command, because you are getting this skill for free eventually later. Okay, so the problem we have here is that Subier only has 5 VP per turn, and you use Tidal Spear 3 times in a row, meaning that on turn 3, he's lacking 1 BP to use Tidal Spear a third time, unless you are using people that give BP, like, I don't know, Acelus with her buff and VP generation, Liz, Gerard. Gerard is the best partner because it will give lots of BP, and, well, let's say you use it Tidal Spear 3 times in a row, and you got into overdrive. Turn 4, you actually want to use Tidal Spear again. So you have 4 Tidal Spears in a row. But to be honest, you can use different setups as well. For example, you can decide to use Tidal Spear twice, and then Prime Pump on turn 3, and then Tidal Spear again on turn 4. You will then attack first with Tidal Spear and follow up 3 times with Sea Lord Onslaught. But Subier has the same problem as Wagnas. He wanted to use Tidal Spear 3 times in a row, but he can actually just use it twice. If he's using it on turn 1 and turn 2, he will miss 1 BP on turn 3 unless you have someone like Liz, Sheree, or older ones giving BP. If you are using Sheree, it's even better, because Sheree buffs STR, Dexterity, and Intelligence, and will also give a lot of BP. Well, Tidal Spear gives you 16 points of Overdrive, and you get 25 points by the end of turn, meaning that you have 41 points in a turn. If the enemy attacks you at least 3 times over 2 turns, by the end of the second turn, you will reach Overdrive. And you can actually use Tidal Spear on turn 3, and you will attack once, and then 3 times with chases. That means that you attack it 4 times total. You buff it. All status for everyone 4 times by 20%. And you casted this defense boost to everyone 4 times as well. They will not take much damage in that turn. And not accounting for that overhands that can trigger 3 times per battle. So Subier will usually get into Overdrive every 3 turns. No matter what he is doing, even Prime Pump gives you 25 points, meaning that he guarantees to get into Overdrive in the same cycle, because 27 plus 25, 2 times, it's already 100%. If you want him to give the extra effects on Overdrive and keep that cycle, you can guarantee it happening. But you can also choose to do a different way. If you want Subier to nuke on a very specific turn, just use Tidal Spear 5 times in a row and use Overdrive on turn 5 only. And then you have this first 8 power attack, and then 5 all-in Sea Lord Spear that will do more damage with each new hit because of that 80% damage increase. But that depends, since if you use Overdrive faster, you are also increasing the Overdrive damage for everyone else's, and you are also buffing everyone, you are also applying more defense boosts. So you have one cycle of going every 3 turns, or one cycle going every 5 turns. Subier still has some inheritance that can help him. If you have his most recent style, we have Water Javelin, a free skill that also gives Pierce and Cold defense down. In this case, everyone benefits and lasts for 2 turns, but it's just 15% defense reduction. Another character that benefits from this is Swift. Swift has Pierce and Cold attacks. Another good thing about Water Javelin is that if you're trying to get Subier into Overdrive every 3 turns and you don't have enough BP to use another Tidal Spear, you can use this Water Javelin because you are attacking. You have to attack on Overdrive to trigger all the effects. You can't use something like Prime Pump there. And if you use a normal attack, then Subier won't be on a combo with everyone else's. So it's a good inheritance. And the closest thing to Water Javelin will be Double Trust Plus. That costs 1 BP if you have this other style of Subier. But you don't really need inheritance if you know when to use your skills. If you know that you're going to get into Overdrive and you won't have BP, use Prime Pump 1 turn before. This still allows Subier to survive better and gets BP and Code Attack boost. It's not really bad. Okay, so Subier is strong. You can do lots of damage if you know how to use him. He pairs up well with Overdrive attackers, but he's not so easy to use. I just believe that he is easier to use than Wagnas, and that's why I believe Subier deserves a 4 out of 5 in my new grading system. Still, just like Varennesian, Subier is not really this best character of the banner, and super easy to skip since we're going to get other types of Overdrive specialists. And helps more if you are in need of his full damage or damage dealers for Remembrance. Subier got a recent style on JP where he has the same Water Javelin free skill, then a skill that applies boost to cold attacks to all allies, decreasing the cold resistance of the enemies, and a skill that costs 15 and hits 8 times, but blunt and cold. I don't know, there's blunt here. And every time you use that attack, you restore a usage of the second skill. So you can keep using the cycle if you have enough BP. But this guy does not have as much BP as you would have wanted. So he needs to have good partners that increases BP generation. But now back to the banner image. Is this banner worth pulling for? In my opinion, yes. But it's because we have 4 different styles here. So just 1% chance of off banner, 4% chances of banner units. Gerard may be the most interesting one because he can replace meta units like Liz and Anya, especially if you decided to skip Sirius, since this banner offers more utility out of the banner companions. I believe that Noel is a very good unit for Remembrance and can even be used on hard challenges. Subier and Wagnas have similar value, although I believe Subier is better because he's easier to use. But I think this banner deserves a Silver Plus award, more because of being 4 units and having at least 1 meta and 3 units that can be used, especially if you are lacking in their weapon types. But it's also a banner that you can easily skip if you already have Anya and not many gems. You can wait till you get other styles that have better utility later. Well, those are not mainstays and not really must-haves. With all that said, this is just my opinion. What is yours? Please say here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I hope to see you soon in the next video or live stream. Bye.